Okay.
All right.
Today is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. I am the interviewer, Amy Moritz, speaking with Kathryn Rafter via Zoom. Kathryn was a member of the Niagara University women's basketball program from 1971 to 1975. In 1974, she became the first female student athlete elected to the Athletics Advisory Council, which helped implement Title IX at Niagara, and was a pioneer in having women's sports officially recognized on Mont Eagle Ridge. And I'm so excited that Kathryn get to speak with you today. So hello and welcome.
Hello, good to see you again, Amy.
Yeah, so good to see you. So I want to start. Tell me about a time that you first remember falling in love with sports.
There was not a moment, but it was, it was obviously when I was very young. To me, it was always a part of my life. We were very active swimming, and we lived on the water, so we would swim and sail and do anything water related. Any chance, I remember pleading with my father to have a catch with me when I was very young, and he kind of was puzzled. He didn't have any boys. There were all girls in our family, so he was like, okay. Um and I hung out with the kid across the street who was a great athlete, and we both shared the same joy of any sport. So I would say between 4 and 9 years old is when I truly embraced sports and organized athletics as well.
Mhm. So now, remind me where you grew up.
On the South Shore of Long Island, New York.
Okay. And so, what organized opportunities for girls did you have for in sports growing up?
Well, there weren't any organized opportunities until I think I reached fifth or sixth grade when,
Mhm.
not in the school system, but they started women's softball little league, which was a big deal. It was warmly
Mhm.
embraced by the community, and they quickly had like 10 or 12 teams that they fielded, and we got parents to coach, and it really was a great start for organized sports for me.
So then, tell me about coming to Niagara and how you kind of let's just kind of go right up to how you ended up at Niagara.
Well, you know, I participated in an awful lot of teams in high school. So we had 4 seasons, and it was field hockey, volleyball, basketball, and softball. And every once in a while, it was like we'd insert tennis, and so there were an awful lot of organized opportunities. The coaches were really good. The facility was good. The community embraced athletics at the high school level at that time, and certainly girls sports too. So I was all in terms of wanting to be a PE teacher. Phys ed was the option for you. Nursing, phys ed, teaching, homemaking. I thought I'd be a disaster at homemaking. Teaching, maybe that had phys ed in there. So that was what I was familiar with. And Niagara actually had just opened up their phys ed program for women. And the guidance counselor said, you might want to try here. They're starting this program. It's for women. You'll be on the ground floor. You like that kind of thing. Check it out. And actually, I didn't even see the campus until the first day of orientation. So it was sight unseen. Good recommendations from a couple of my friends who were already students there. So that was the choice.
And when you arrived at Niagara, would that been 1971? Is that when you would have
71,
been a
fall of
freshman?
71. Yeah.
Okay, so pre Title IX, but obviously there's more girls and women starting to play organized sports. What
Yeah.
was available at Niagara if you were a female and athletic?
There was nothing intercollegiate. There was an intramural program for basketball and softball, and that was sort of, we're going to have these intramurals, and they were always scheduled. Our time on courts or on the field were always scheduled after the men played. So, they had preference, obviously, at that time.
So
Obviously.
I mean, so you get there. I'm assuming that you're playing intramurals when you get to school.
Yeah, we did. It was we were the second class to be in a dorm, and the Elizabeth Seton Hall, and they put all the PE majors on the same floor, and then on the other floor was were upperclassmen, sophomores, and most of those were nurses, and we were the only. We were the only students in the dorm, and there was a whole group of us who played basketball in high school. And Niagara's a basketball school. They did have a
Mhm.
club football team, but basically Niagara is a basketball school. And basketball is inexpensive. All you need is a basketball and a hoop. And we got together and said, let's, in addition to the intramurals, let's form a team.
Okay. But I want to ask you about forming the team and how you went about that. But first, I just want to back up because I think that we forget the way that you phrased it. Like women weren't living on campus. You were among the first women living on campus. Like that's a big shift for the culture of that campus at the time too, right?
Yeah, prior to Seton Hall opening up, women were it was kind of wherever they could fit women. There
Okay.
were a couple of floors and a couple of halls where they put mostly nursing students. There were
Mhm.
a lot of nursing was a huge program for women and now is still. Um,
Mhm.
and and a lot of women were live if unless they were lived in town or nearby and commuted, they lived in like a hotel in downtown Niagara Falls. I mean, the university had accommodations for them, but they were off campus.
Mhm.
So yeah, there weren't. It was women to Niagara were new in the prior like 4 or 5 years, and most of them were nursing students.
Okay.
And so it was traditionally an all male school.
Right. And so now you're one of the first classes of women physical educator students, right?
Yeah,
PE.
and we
So
were. Yeah.
so tell me up to now. Tell me about you had a bunch of women who had played high school basketball, and you wanted something more than just intramurals. So take me through what you kind of had, how you went from there. What were your next steps?
Well, it was like I have to say I wasn't a leader in it. It was like a group of us. Like we all said, what do we do next? And let's get a coach and let's get together and see. We were naive. We're like, we'll just get some court time and we'll play against some other colleges or other universities. And unfortunately, Mary Beth O'Leary's dad was a coach, her coach in high school, and he said that he was going to come in from Buffalo and coach us. So he basically it was our first coach for the women's team. He came, I mean, he was there many nights a week and on weekends where we had practice or games. He set up the games for us. We went to the athletic department and said, we want to have uniforms and we want stuff like that. And they were like, no. So then we went to the Dean of Women and we cobbled together like anyone else in that era. You cobbled together the equipment and uniform and schedule time that you could. You just kind of got to work and you did that. And it was with great support by the Dean of Women and great support by John O'Leary, Mary Beth's dad, in pulling this off.
Uh-huh.
So, so I think
So
we maybe had like 10 or 12 games the first season.
okay, and so then tell me about the athletics advisory council. So I mean, the group of you kind of cobbled, like you did, like you cobbled together things, but there was more like working to get things more support. It sounds like, right?
Yeah, the trajectory was more like, all right, we had a foundation where we had a team, and many of us stayed with the team for 4 years, and that's difficult to do when you you several people had campus jobs. We had practice every day except I think Sunday. We had games. We had to travel, so we had a real very strong committed core of first timers on our basketball team. And and I think that had more to do with making things change than anything else because they saw that we put the work in. They saw the value that it was giving us, and they saw that we weren't going to give up, you know. So
Right.
what happened is every year we kept asking for more support, and it was like provided to us. They weren't against us as much as they just didn't see us. They didn't see us as important competitors. You know, they didn't see us that um, we were real. It was just the girls, or the females, or as they called us, the purple princesses, which was not a name that I thought was complimentary. It was like a joke that stuck, a nickname that stuck that you never really wanted, and because it didn't have any seriousness to it. So so we stuck with it, and then every year we kept pushing and pushing and nothing was happening, and in the second year was when Title IX uh, was really getting hot, and I had received my mother had given me the women's sports magazine that Billie Jean King was publishing from her foundation, and in it was a how-to manual in how to get Title IX up and running in your school or university. And it was the playbook. And you know, athletes like playbooks. So one of the things I did was I researched and found out through the Dean of Women that you can get on this athletic advisory committee and you would have a seat at the table. And as they say in Hamilton, in the room where it happens. And I was like, great. And the first year on that I was elected to that by the student body is that it was more of an observer, and then I would introduce Title IX, and it would get poo 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 poo, blah blah blah. That's a very nice little lady, youngin. And then of course it became real and it was passed. And the following year, I think when I was a junior, I said, "Look, we've got to have this. It's the law of the land." And of course, there was pushback because they thought it wasn't the law for a religious institution. And of course, I came back and said, "Yes, it is. Let's look at it." And so there was a lot of ignoring it and a lot of resistance and a lot of uh, I guess, ignoring how credible it was and how credible I was and the Dean of Women, actually. So that's kind of lacking. You know, that was the response. It was very I don't know what it dismissive is the word I guess I would use.
And as you're kind of dealing with that dismissive, attitude, where did you find support? Was there other? Obviously, you mentioned the Dean of Women, but was there other support that you had supporters around you as well?
Well, I think that, you know, it was interesting. The student body was quite supportive.
Mhm,
So the student government, the student body government was very supportive. They're the ones who kind of said, let's elect Rafter for this. And they were like, keep getting it. Of course, teammates, there were parents, there were other students. And I know the dean was working through the administrative support. There were a couple of priests who were like, "Yep, come on, you can do this. Don't give up." But
mhm,
the folks at the top of the administration really had a lot of resistance to the
mhm,
notion of women competing and women being equal, honestly.
mhm. What was the point then when you were able to kind of break through that resistance and then kind of get something a little bit more?
Yeah, I think it's having the allies, right?
Mhm,
And demonstrating commitment, which is what the team did.
mhm,
And also, you know, creating the narrative that these are the facts. This is the reality. There, we cannot hide from it. It's the law of the land, and research it, noodle it, and let's talk about what our alternatives are. Because at first it was no, no, no way. And then it became, wait a minute, I think we have to do something. And then it became, we are going to do something, we just don't know what we're going to do. So, in terms of allies, there really weren't that many, except for my peers and
Mhm.
a couple of teachers. There were a couple of great
Mhm.
teachers who were like always willing to have girls play on, like on the tennis team. Come on out and play,
Mhm.
you know. But other than that, it seemed pretty, like it was us against the machine.
Right, right. When by the time you had left, that maybe changed a little bit. Like I mean, can you kind of maybe some of the victories that you may have won, along that way?
Oh yeah, I mean there were victories, or else we might have given up. But so
Right.
there always there's victories. It's slow going in the beginning as I look back
Mhm.
on it, and then so that what changed was that they accepted the reality. And I'm talking about the administrators, the people on the athletic advisory board. Their first reaction was our men's sports teams are going to lose. We're going to have to fire coaches. We're going to have to stop having track and field, non-revenue producing sports. We're going to have to stop all of that so you can play basketball. And that was pretty close to a quote. And who in this room do you want to lose their job so you can play basketball? So we can implement this Title IX thing. They got past that when they realized they have to do it, and they have to find comparable. The wording between equal and comparable was a big deal, because I think if the word was ever equal, we would still be battling Title IX.
Mhm.
We had to give them some room in the beginning. So it was pretty
Mhm.
brilliant. I don't like that, but it's the way we got something done.
Mhm.
The administrators came back and they said, here are the three choices that we're going to vote on. This is going to be an important meeting. And I do have the minutes where they said, our next meeting, this is what we're going to vote on. One is to discontinue all intercollegiate sports. That's going to be an option. We'll just stop everything. The second is to continue intercollegiate sports, but only have non-scholarship athletes play, like our PE students. And literally it was written in there, have our PE students
Mhm.
compete for Niagara. And then the third was gradually bring women's sports on in compliance with
Mhm.
Title IX.
So blow it up or
That's exactly right.
yeah, yeah.
That's it. And there were, it was a very, as I have matured somewhat, I realized what a difficult decision this was, and how difficult it was having this Title IX thing thrown at them because they weren't aware of it. Until those athletic advisory committee meetings, if the Dean of Women, Betty Kimmel, and I didn't bring it up, they wouldn't have known about Title IX. It just wasn't on their radar. So it was a shock to the system. And of course, they reacted to that probably in not the most mature way.
So the result of that meeting, we are today, it sounds like it was option three that they would gradually bring women's sports on board.
They did. And I think that Frank Layden, who was the director of athletics at the time and the men's basketball coach, and, just a really good guy, he had done his research and he knew that this is what we had to do. So
Mhm.
he guided that group. He was a
Mhm.
leader of that group. And actually the plan was, we can't give a scholarship. And I think that that meeting where it was voted to have women's sports was in
Mhm.
April of 1975. They said, it's too soon to offer this for 76-77 school year, but we will be ready to do that for basketball and I think softball. or swimming. Get on this in 78. Did I get that right? S- Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they brought it, and they also committed to bring in a director of women's athletics, and that person also was the women's basketball coach, who was Mary Roykel, who did a fantastic job as an administrator and as a coach for basketball. So they did make the commitment, and they got the ball rolling, and they I think said, yeah, women's sports are here to stay by having that director of women's athletics.
Uh-huh. And I spoke with Mary. Was she your roommate in college?
Yeah, our well, she was always on the floor. I mean, when
Okay.
we were freshmen, we were all put on the floor. We
Okay.
were all PE majors when we started. Mary went into nursing, but basically, we were on the team together when we first started. Mary and
Mhm.
I played all 4 years. I think we were co-captains the last 2 years.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And then final year off campus, she was a roommate. We shared
Right.
a condo with two other women.
You had like you had mentioned, Frank Layden, who kind of helped at the end, kind of steer, and she had really good things to say, about him. And it sounds like as he could, I mean, you have to be political, which I think when you get older, you understand the politics of the situation. But it sounds like he was trying to steer things and was like an ally to try to help steer things. I don't want to put those words in your mouth and your experience.
It was interesting because the first 3 years I didn't see it.
Hmm.
I didn't see it at
Right.
all because probably there was a lot going on. It's like a duck swimming on water. You don't see how much work it takes underwater, under the surface. And and also he Frank Layden. I mean, I didn't just go up and talk to him. I was he Frank Layden, he had a purple Cadillac. He was a men's basketball coach. He was Frank Layden. I would not go up and have a conversation with him,
Right.
um, because I was raised in that authoritative environment where you know. but but come to find out, he was steering towards what was, I think, the right thing to do, and he saw it as the right thing to do, not just the lawful thing to do. And in talking to Mary, how helpful he was, and in talking to Ann Summers, who really started the women's tennis team, uh, and on how supportive he was for her. And so, yeah, it wasn't all resistance. It was resistance for about 3 years until we could, I guess, come to an understanding what was real, what was not real.
Right. So that's the administrative part of it, but let's talk a little bit about the fun part of it, which was playing, right?
Yeah.
And all of that. Can you just describe the experience of the team, the experience of, who you were playing, what kind of other schools you were playing those 4 years, and what that competition was like?
Yeah. Well, it was, first of all, it's fun. I mean, I'm one of those athletes who likes practice as much as I like the game, and it was fun. It was just the camaraderie, just the team stuff is something that has always been energizing for me. Getting better, competing, every once in a while winning. It's to me, it's total enjoyment being on a team. Even when you're working hard, 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 it's enjoyable. So, so that there's that aspect of it. The building and growing it and being a part of that was also enjoyable, and having like an extracurricular job in that, can we get more stuff done? Honestly, it was not a lot. It was attending some meetings, it was talking to people, it wasn't a full-time job doing this, but it was really good extracurricular work that I think shaped my career and shaped my life in terms of, yeah, just go out and try this stuff, try to influence people, try to bring people on board. So there were two aspects of it: the playing, the competing, part, and then also the how do we grow this to make it better and stronger and more enjoyable for everyone and accepted.
I know that we've talked offline about this a little bit, but I want to ask you about the little three and about Canisius and St. Bonaventure and the kind of that mission, but also the camaraderie, like the how important. Well, how important was it to have Canisius and St. Bonaventure also growing a women's basketball and women's sports kind of at the same time and being able to play each other, maybe being in somewhat similar positions?
It was fantastic. It still is a friendly rivalry. Is we always prepared for the Canisius and St. Bonaventure games. We saw those as regardless what happens in this year, in this season, we have to beat them. And of course, students would come and watch that. And then towards our junior and senior year, they put us back to back with them. So the women would play first and then the men would play afterwards. That was a big deal. That meant we were accepted. And we even got some fans to go to that. So, uh, that and honestly, I think the school's cultures are so similar and what we value and the student athletes and the student bodies were very similar. So yeah, it was a great friendly rivalry. And
Mhm.
again, Canisius and St. Bonaventure, when somebody tells me in Dallas, Texas, they went to Canisius, I feel like they almost went to Niagara. Same thing with St. Bonaventure. I was working with a client, some executive. Yeah, I went to St. Bonaventure. Who went, you're a body.
I would tonight, right? Like, yeah, there's a almost an extended connection that you have with
And
those
and we had it
schools.
with each other. He said, "I cannot believe you're a purple eagle." I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So we kind of, in the middle of all these people with these huge, went to huge colleges and degrees, we had something in common. We had a shared experience.
I love that.
Yeah.
You mentioned a little bit about how those experiences then helped you later in your career, right? So just as an athlete, Co- what are some of those? How did that experience as a student athlete then help you later on in your career?
Well, I think there are a couple of things, and one is the what my mother used to say is stick to itiveness. It's like if you're gonna do something, commit to it. Commit to it. And if you're going to
Mhm,
commit to it in a way that it gets better and better. You get better, the environment gets better. So commit to it. And a lot of people say commit to excellence. It doesn't have to be excellence. It's just got to be incrementally better. And I think that was the process and I learned that as a life lesson that yeah, it was 4 years and boy did they go fast, but I was learning how to do that. Now I can articulate it.
mhm,
Then I could not, but that's
right.
what was going on. Um, so those life lessons helped. Of course, anytime you're on a team and you can compete and you can support and you can improve, that's going to help you in life. Because everything you're doing on a team, when you're competing against someone else, those sports where you're competing against someone else, um, it's a reflection on the barriers that you have in life. And we've got to figure out a way to move around them or get stronger and better and move through them or go over them or diminish them or do something. So that's a life lesson I have is like it's not this is not tough. You've done this before. Your DNA has been built to accept obstacles, try to define them, and try to figure out a way to address them. So that is huge, by the way. Um, and also the fun, camaraderie, discipline, all the things that people say that they have, and they want to hire young women into their businesses or organizations because they have those attributes. They're proven when they compete.
Mhm,
That is also huge. So, so it's an awful lot. I owe an awful lot of the things that I enjoy in life to my experience playing on a team.
You were inducted into the Niagara Athletics Hall of Fame, and I'm wondering how take me through that a little bit. And I know that people talk about being a pioneer, and I wonder how you feel about that being called a pioneer.
Whoa. It's I'm sure other people will say this too. You're not a pioneer when you're doing it. You're just a near. You're just near whatever you're doing and trying to figure out this step and then next step and then the next step. I kind of had a vision of what we should be because we saw what men's basketball was and what men's tennis was and what men's sports were. I mean, that's they always say a leader, somebody who leads through change should have a vision. We didn't need to do that. We already said this is what we should be achieving. This is where we should be. So there was no that I'm very uncomfortable when people say that. Although I know it's a compliment. I know it's a compliment, but again, we were 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and being aware of what's going to happen 50 years later just wasn't in our in our windshield. We didn't see out the front and say that's what we're doing. I do know I was very aware what men and boys had given to them. Uh, Throughout my life, I was aware of that. When I was a kid, I was aware of that, and it's just like, wow, that's just not the world that's right for me. So doing something about it, I think, was important to me rather than just having things done to me. I don't know. So I don't know if I
Okay.
answered that question about the pioneer, but I appreciate it. I just don't. It it was a little uncomfortable because at the time that's not what I set out to do.
Right. You completely answered the question.
Yeah. The other part, I will say this, and I'll emphasize it. There were thousands of women who were doing it all over the country and all over the world. And many of us had access to Billie Jean King's playbook, and others did not, and they followed the leads. They followed their hearts, they followed their passions, they made it happen. So it was really a wave of pioneers. And I'm very grateful to be designated as one of them, yet it was a team effort, right?
Right. I love that wave of pioneers. What a great way to put it. With all of this, what does Title IX mean to you?
It was a door. It was a door that opened for us. It was a really big door. And we could tell that it was significant by how much resistance there was to it. There are people who still want to dismantle Title IX every day. Every day, there are people working to dismantle Title IX. And, um, and I value it so much because it's opened the doors not just for us, but for these young girls who are on these teams now. They see it as the way things are, which is the definition of success. The way things are, when you see it in WNBA, you see it professional soccer, professional volleyball, filling stadiums to watch a volleyball game. They are seeing things the way things are, not what they might be. And that is in itself the definition of success. So Title IX opened up the door for all those possibilities. And I'm forever grateful to the work that Birch Bayh did in Indiana as
Mhm.
senator to really push that forward. That how it was promoted through the Women's Sports Foundation, organizations, teachers, coaches, people joined together to make it a reality and a successful reality. And I'm thrilled and grateful that that's happened. So yes, it's got a very dear place in my heart.
I love what you said there. And so the last question I have for you then, and you touched on it a little bit, is the next generation of women, next generation of female athletes at Niagara. And I know that you're very involved in some things at Niagara still with Empower. So you can talk a little bit about what you're doing now and what you want that current generation to know about their history and why that you think is important.
Well, thanks for asking me, and do you have a couple of hours? I am so proud of this. It's unbelievable. It's like I still work. That's my
Mhm.
job, but this has become my full-time passion. So, let me see. Here's why it became anytime I interacted with Niagara University, any of the coaches, and particularly the student athletes. I was so impressed and energized that I thought more more former athletes should just go back and see what they're doing there. They're incredible. Number one, they're good students. Well, actually, that should be number two, but number number two, they're good students. And number one, they're good people. Their value system is tremendous. They know right from wrong. They know how to treat each other. They value what should be valued in the world and in their experiences, and they apply that to their studies, and they apply that to their athletic endeavors. So that is like what I say to the Alumni Association when they want to get people back to Niagara. I said, have them meet the students. There's no better energizer. There's no better sigh of relief that the world is going to be okay. So so with that, it was like, why don't we connect more? Why doesn't our basketball team connect more? And because when we do, we feel great. We have so much fun. Why don't we get together and do these golf outings like the guys do? Why don't we do all that stuff that the guys seem to do naturally? And it's because we're busy. So I started Empower, which is Niagara Power for, and it's former Niagara women athletes who are good sports and want to change the game. And it's all about us not just donating money, but time and support and mentorships and help for all of us as we network through life. But basically, a support system and working with the School of Sports Management, working with the Department of Athletics, working with the alumni relations area and the coaches. We've formed a really strong partnership. And again, now we have another team that is driving this. So we had a kickoff where you were there, Amy. That was our
Mhm.
launch. Since then, we created an Empower Award for the graduating student athlete that personifies the values and the enthusiasm for sports uh, at Niagara University. So we give that at the Sports Award dinner. We have we actually had the last one last week. We have Welcome Back to Campus uh, events where former athletes from any sport will welcome the team as after their orientation, and we say, "Hey, we're here for you." We do it in person and online, so we have an event, buy them lunch, and kind of rally the troops and say, this is the alumni group that has played your sport and cares about you." And it's really a lot of fun too. And we're planning on really promoting the games through uh, ESPN Plus,
Plus,
and getting more women to games and having an Empower set. So we have all sorts of plans, and hopefully we'll see you at the second annual Empower. Uh, I don't know what we're calling it, but it's some sort of conference with
Mhm.
student athletes and more alumni attending. Oh, here's the logo.
Love
I
that.
wore it for you.
Oh, there it is. Yes, I love it. I love it. The power. Yes.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Niagara's near a power plant, and
Near the power
and
stations right there. Yeah.
power is not power is a an important word for us. It's at the center of what we want to accomplish. We want all of our student athletes to feel powerful, not powerless. So that's we want them to give them that self-confidence and let them know that they have the support to achieve incredible things.
Mhm. And what has the response from the current student athletes been, not just from the mentorship too, but maybe learning about the, I mean, not to glorify the struggles that you went through, but like to understand where they came from, like where their opportunity came from. Do you think that it's important for them to understand that as well?
I think it's important, but not to dwell on it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Uh-huh.
I
Hmm.
think there's a distinction. So
Hmm.
it's as simple as we did not have the school did not give us shoes or and sports bras weren't invented yet. And uh,
Hmm.
and that's a way to segue into not only did we not have support, but we didn't have support.
Support.
So so it was the I played basketball in topsiders.
Hmm.
And you'll hear all the stories about what people wore and the skirts and the jumpers and things, but I think that's good. But also importantly, I think it's all right to say, and we fought so you can be as good as you are right now. It is about you now. It's not about what we did. And we expect you to carry the torch. And I think that's all we need to do. And they get it. And they're like, wow. We love it. Whoa, really? Get out. So yeah, it's
Well, it's a great, I mean, Empower is it's a great organization initiative that you guys are doing. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. And I'm really grateful for your time today to take me through some of that history.
well, it's always good to talk to you. I hope you got some sound bites here.
100%. 100%. Absolutely great.
And good luck in your efforts. I know you're going to be teaching, so I don't know if you'll be able to come up to the school for in February for National Girls and Women's Sports Day. We haven't designed what it's going to look like, but it's going to be fantastic. Our we don't call it membership; it's our roster for Empower is growing daily.
That's
I mean, the
fantastic.
word is out there, and people are having a fantastic time just getting together on Zoom calls.
Oh, that's great.
So
Yeah.
it's nice.
Well, I'm still based like in Buffalo, like in Cheektowaga.
Oh,
So
okay.
like I'm not like so I commute 3 days a week. So if I'm able to come up, I absolutely would love it. I mean, additionally, I mean, and this is up to you if you want, but would love to get to the women that are on your roster. If there's any women from Niagara who's like, I would love to talk about my time at Niagara. I'd love to share like my story about being an athlete there and what that was like. I don't know if I'd love to be able to connect with them if there are other women from Niagara that would be interested in and are willing to do that.
Well, I think you'd really enjoy talking to Ann Sumner, who was,
Uh-huh.
I referenced her earlier, and
Mhm.
starting the women's tennis team
Yes, I would love
and
to.
what it
Yeah.
was like and working with Frank Layden. And
Hmm.
again, we lost a good one a couple of weeks ago. So
We
may he
did.
rest
Yeah.
in peace because he really did contribute tremendously to Niagara.
Hmm. But yeah, and I would love to, if you could connect me with her, that'd be, fantastic. I would love to do that.
Yeah, it's good to have this her story.
Yes. I'm excited. It's been great. It's been so much fun. So, my passion project. This is my, like, Not full time, but full time passion project. Yeah, love it.
Well, have fun doing it. If it's not fun doing it, it's not worth doing.
It's not worth doing. Absolutely. All
Well,
right.
I do
Well,
have one story with you that for you, and I don't know whether it's something you want to record, but it's really interesting. I told it to the women's soccer team during our welcome back
okay.
on Thursday, and it was like when I got out of Niagara, when I graduated, I had a job at American Airlines, a frontline job. I was a reservation agent. Then I worked a little bit at the airport, and then I went down to their world headquarters in Dallas to get another job as like a project manager. And I worked in a department, they were all men. I mean, and because women didn't have management jobs unless they were a flight attendant or they worked in reservations. So
Mhm.
all men, and I was an industrial engineer, and that word dismissive kind of comes up a lot when we go through our careers and run the memory
Right.
tape.
Hmm.
So they were like very friendly and kind and all that stuff, but they were relatively dismissive. And while I was there, I didn't have any friends, so I went and joined a team, and there was a soccer team near me, so I went and joined
Hmm.
that, and I played. I ended up playing for 15 years at North Texas Women's Soccer Association. We
Oh.
competed at a very high level. I loved it. I love soccer.
Mm.
But I would come in on Monday with some sort of sprained something all the time because our games were on Sunday. And I had blown up this and
Mhm.
and these guys are like, "What is going on?" I said, "I play on this soccer team." He said, "My God, I thought it was non-contact." I said, "Yeah." So I said, "You got to come out and watch me." So a couple of them did the following Sunday. Well, after that one, but after I healed,
Mhm.
their impression of me completely shifted.
Wow.
Totally shifted from dismissive to reliable, give her more assignments. You can count on her. She's part of our team now. So they brought me in after seeing me compete in soccer.
Wow.
And it wasn't like I was the star on the team, I was a team member. But that is how women progress. And that's a really good example of, of how being viewed as a teammate, an athlete, can change your trajectory and the impression others have of you in life. So
Yeah.
I was put on the fast track pretty fast, and it was because they saw a different me. And
Their
then
perception of you completely shifted when oh, she gets it.
completely shifted. They saw the teamwork, they saw aggressiveness, they saw agility. They Guys admire athleticism, so I think that's a great example of while it was not in college, but that's how it plays out
Yeah,
in the real world. And
it is.
I got to be thankful for all those ankle sprains.
Right. So see, if you never came in injured, if you never got sprained or anything, then they wouldn't have asked you about it. So there you go.
Oh my God. All right. Won't take up any more of your time. Thank you so much, Amy.